Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss about multiprocessor scheduling. So far we have discussed about the single processor scheduling, which means how the scheduling takes place in case of single processing environment. So we have only one processor in the system, and even single user or multi-user may be connected with the system with that OS, and afterwards how we can schedule the process to the CPU for execution. So there were many scheduling policies were available, as well as many scheduling algorithms we were discussed in single processor system. So now moving on to the multiprocessor system. So we know already what is multiprocessor. So there may be many number of processor that may be connected with a single computer system. So that is what multiprocessor system. So in this multiprocessor, load sharing plays the major role in case of multiprocessing environment. So what is load sharing? Which means there may be many number of processor that were available. So each and every processor were executing many number of process. Suppose if any one of the process are executing more number of processor, which means heavily loaded, and other process sits idle, so it does not have any process to execute, which is nothing but some load imbalancing may be there in case of multiprocessing. So we should avoid it. So we should share the load evenly for each and every processor we have. And the next one is in case of multiprocessor, there are actually two forms that were available. So one is homogeneous multiprocessor and another one is heterogeneous. Homogeneous means all the processor are executing the same functionality, which is nothing but homogeneous multiprocessor, which means all the processor are identical processor. Whereas heterogeneous, which is nothing but the processor may execute different functionality, so that non-identical processor is nothing but heterogeneous. So in case of homogeneous multiprocessor, the scheduling is somewhat more easier than the heterogeneous. So we will discuss all those things. Okay. So there are actually two different approaches in case of multiprocessor system. So first one is asymmetric processing, multiprocessing, and the next one is symmetric multiprocessing. Asymmetric multiprocessor means, so basically when we talk about the asymmetric multiprocessor, there will be only one processor that acts as a server, which is nothing but the master processor, and all other remaining processor which are nothing but the slave processor. So which means which is also treated as a client processor. So the processor that takes care of responsibility of scheduling all the process to evenly to all other remaining processor, this concept is said to be asymmetric multiprocessing. So there will be one processor which acts as a master processor, or it is said to be the server, and it take care of all the scheduling properties, which means scheduling techniques, and how the scheduling task will be executed. So it will be executed only by one processor, not all the processor at a time. So this particular processor will do the scheduling process for each and every processor that were available. So here scheduling is somewhat easier in case of asymmetric, because there is only one processor has the access to share the data, which means a common data structure. So whatever we need in order to schedule the process to each and every processor, so only one processor may access that particular common data structure. So it's somewhat more easier. But if you go and work it with the symmetric multiprocessing, so what do you mean by symmetric multiprocessing? So here we don't assign any one of the processor to take care of the scheduling task. Each and every processor that has been connected with the system is said to be the scheduling task. So it will perform that scheduling task, which is nothing but self-scheduling. So each and every processor may have its own set of scheduling criteria in order to execute all the scheduling task to all the set of process what it has separately. So that is what symmetric multiprocessing. So here we have either the common ready queue or we can have the private ready queue. Common ready queue means, so to all the processor that were available, so one common ready queue will be maintained. So there we will store all the set of process, and from the ready queue, so we will be assigning all the process to each and every processor. But scheduling will be done by each and every processor separately. The only thing, we are just maintaining the queue as a common ready queue. Otherwise, we can also maintain the private ready queue, so which means each and every processor must have their own set of processes that should be maintained as a queue. So most modern operating system will use the symmetric multiprocessing concept. Example, Linux, Windows, Mac OS, everything which is actually supporting this symmetric multiprocessing. So if you use the symmetric multiprocessing concept, the scheduling is somewhat more complicated because each and everything is performing their own type of own style of scheduling. So what happens there, it may leads to some situation, something like that. So both the processor at the same time, more than one processor may schedule the same process. So it may also possible, we may get like this kind of situation in case of symmetric multiprocessing. So scheduling is somewhat more complicated than the asymmetric multiprocessing. So what are all the concepts that we should know in case of symmetric multiprocessing? First one is processor affinity. So what is that processor affinity? So as I said, if each and every processor has their own set of process that is actually maintained in a ready queue, if suppose there are two processor A and B, and the processor A has the process B that is actually executing, so here the cache memory plays a major, because what is the purpose of using the cache memory? So cache memory is used to store the frequently accessed data. So whichever the data which is accessed often, more than many times, if you are accessing the same set of data, so that particular set of data will be stored in the cache memory, so we can easily access it within a short period of time. So that is what the purpose of cache memory. So what happens here, the process P is executing and it is accessing the data which is stored in the cache memory. In some cases, this particular process may migrate to some other processor, which is nothing but it will transfer to some other processor in order to execute that same process. So it may happen. So when this particular thing will be happen, so I will tell you later. Okay, so when the process must be migrated from one processor to another processor, so I will tell you what is the reason of process migration. So in some cases we will be getting the process migrated from one processor to another processor. So what happens there, the cache memory whichever that has been accessed by the first processor, right? So here we have two processor, one is A and B, and in the first A processor we are executing this process B and it is using its own cache memory. So we have the private cache memory, so we are not sharing the cache memory here. So when after the process has been migrated to processor B, what happens there, the content of the cache memory will become invalidated and the content of the new cache memory must be repopulated. So we are just making the new content, whatever the content we have already in this cache memory will be stored again in the cache memory of the new processor, because in order to execute this process, right? So all these things will be more expensive. Using the cache memory is itself the expensive thing, but even then what you are doing, you are just invalidating the old cache memory content and you are just repopulating the content of the new cache memory. So I'm just telling old and new, which is nothing but the processor, the previous processor, whatever it is using the cache memory, and the new processor on which the process has been migrated. So it is nothing but the content has to be repopulated again in this particular cache memory. So all these are said to be more expensive and it also takes time to do all these things, right? So in order to avoid it, some of the operating system may not allow this migration. So process must not be migrated from one processor to another processor. Migration is not allowed in some of the operating system. In order to avoid all these issues, in order to overcome all these things, we are not allowing the process to migrate from one processor to another processor. Okay. So here in the process, if it enters to any one of the processor, it must stay in the same processor itself until its entire completion, execution. So that is what processor affinity So the meaning of processor affinity is if any one of the process has been allocated to any one of the processor, right? So if it holds that process, that particular process will not be migrated in between the execution before completing its execution, right? So it should not be migrated to any other processor, and that is what processor affinity. So this processor affinity will have several forms. So one is hard affinity, and another one is soft affinity. Soft affinity means so we are just maintaining the concept of keeping the process in one of the processor itself. We are not allowing, but operating system will not allow the process migration, but it will not give the guarantee that this process must not be migrated at all. In some cases it may migrate. So migration may happen even though we are just allocating the process to one of the processor. In some cases migration may happen. We are not providing the guaranteed, we cannot give the guarantee that this particular process will not be migrated at all. That is what soft affinity. Okay, so we are telling that this particular process will be executed in the same processor, but we cannot guarantee that. In some cases migration may also happen. So that is what soft affinity. Coming to this hard affinity, so we are just allowing one of the process to execute in the same processor. Okay, same processor depends upon the memory architecture whatever we have for the particular processor. So this process will be executed till its execution in the same processor itself. So that is what hard affinity. So in case of hard affinity, based on the architecture, and also some process will give the it will specify the subset of a processor on which it will be executed. So it will give the whichever the processor it may execute, so it will give the sum list. That is what hard affinity. So we can understand, so this particular process may execute in these processor. So that is what hard affinity. So coming to this non-uniform memory access and the CPU scheduling, so why we are going to this concept? So this non-uniform memory access will eliminate the benefit of this processor affinity. So what is the benefit of processor affinity? So in order to avoid all the switching of the content from one processor cache memory to another processor cache memory, so we are just going with the processor affinity. But if you're going with some of the architecture may not help with uniform memory access, so it may also go to this non-uniform memory access, which means so there will be one system, and this particular CPU, if it accesses the memory within the same processor, then it could be a fast access. In some cases the access can also be taken from some other processor memory, so it will slower the access of the content. So whatever the content it needs, it may get in with a longer time, right? So that is what non-uniform memory access, because it is actually trying to contact with other processor. So at the time again the content will be transferred from other processor to this particular processor. So it is also denying the benefit of the processor affinity. So the content will be transferred from one processor to another, the migration again takes place. So it is actually eliminating the benefit of the processor affinity. So it is processor affinity is achieved based on the architectural state of the operating system or that particular processor. Okay. So next one is load balancing. So this is also, I just told in the beginning itself, load sharing plays a major role in case of multiprocessor system, right? So we need to balance the load evenly for all the multiprocessors. Suppose if any one of the processor is heavily loaded but other processor is not having any of the process, it simply sits idle. So it is said to be the idle processor. So what happens there? The load may be imbalanced, so we cannot produce the effective performance. So performance will be degraded, so all the efficiency will become lower, right? So in order to balance the load among all the different multiprocessor, so we are just going with the two approaches. So first one is push migration and the next one is pull migration. So what is It means push migration means, so we are just allowing to migrate any of the process from heavily loaded processor to idle processor. So here also we are performing the migration because one of the processor is actually not able to execute all the incoming process because it is heavily loaded. It keep on receiving the process. It is highly difficult to switch between all those process, and it has to execute all the process, right, in order. So it is highly difficult to perform all those things. So we are just performing the migration. So we are just pushing some of the process from heavily loaded processor to idle processor. This is what push migration. And in the same way, another approach has also been used, which is nothing but pull migration. So here also we have two processor. One is heavily loaded and another one is idle processor, which does not have any process to execute, right? So load is not evenly balanced. So what we are doing, the idle processor may pull some of the process from the heavily loaded processor. So may pull one of the process, at least one by one it can pull from the heavily loaded processor to the idle processor by itself, and it can execute all the incoming process. That is what pull migration. So these two approaches will also be done in order to share the load in between the many number of process, and it also in order to balance the load among the different processor. So we are going with this approach, but this push migration and pull migration is mutual. It does not actually prefer to mutually exclusive. So we can execute these two approaches in parallel on the multiprocessor environment. So that is also possible. So even if you support this load balancing approaches, again we are denying the processor affinity issue, right? So because we should not migrate any of the process from one processor to another processor. That is what processor affinity. So in order to overcome the difficulties whatever we are facing in accessing the cache memory, so or any of the data whatever it is accessed by that particular process that has been migrated, so in order to avoid all those things, we are just going with the processor affinity, but in order to balance the load we are just denying the benefit of the processor affinity. So we are just taking over the control of migration from one processor to another processor. So that is what load balancing. Okay, so this is about multiprocessor scheduling. Thank you.